The dead world spun slowly in the dim light of its dying star. Red dust covered everything, making the landscape look like old blood. Dr. Cathara stepped carefully over the rocky ground, her forearms holding different scanning devices. Behind her, the Zephyrian research team spread out across the dig site. "Another false reading," muttered Velton, the team's junior researcher. His scales flickered blue with disappointment. "These ruins are probably just more Korthak settlements. Maybe 2,000 years old at most." Cathara said nothing. She had been studying ancient civilizations for 30 years. Something felt different about this place. The stones were arranged in patterns she had never seen before. The metal fragments scattered around showed signs of technology, but it was crude, almost primitive. She knelt beside a large stone tablet. Strange symbols covered its surface. They looked like they had been carved by hand, not by the precise laser tools that most ancient races used. The writing was deep and rough, as if made by someone who was still learning how to write. "Team leader," called Nixara from across the dig site. "You need to see this." Cathara walked over to where her colleague stood next to what looked like the remains of a spacecraft. But it was unlike any ship she had ever seen. The design was basic, with thick metal plates welded together. There were no signs of the advanced materials that even the oldest known civilizations used. "Run a dating scan," she ordered. Nixara pointed her scanner at the metal. The device hummed for several minutes. When it finished, she looked at the reading 3 times before speaking. "Team leader, this says the metal is 12 million years old." The entire team stopped working. Velton's scales turned pale yellow. "That's impossible. Nothing in the galaxy is that old. The oldest known civilization only goes back 3 million years. Cathara felt her hearts beating faster. She had heard stories about the ancients, like every child in the galaxy. They were supposed to be the first race to travel between stars. Legend said they were incredibly advanced and wise. They had disappeared long ago, leaving behind only myths and stories. But this was not what she expected to find. These ruins looked primitive. The tools were simple. The writing was rough. If these were the ancients, they were nothing like the stories described. "Keep scanning," she told her team. "I want to know everything about this place." For the next 6 days, they worked without rest. They found more tablets with the strange writing. They discovered tools made of basic metals. There were fragments of computers that used simple circuits instead of quantum processors. Everything pointed to a civilization that had just learned to travel between planets. But the dating never changed. 12 million years old, older than any known species in the galaxy. On the 7th day, Cathara made the discovery that would change everything. Deep inside what looked like an old building, she found a room with symbols carved into every wall. In the center was a stone table with a metal plate on top. The plate showed a map of the galaxy, but it was not like any map she knew. This one showed star systems that existed 12 million years ago. Some of the stars marked on the map had died long before any current civilization existed. More importantly, the map showed travel routes between hundreds of worlds. Whoever made this map had not just visited a few nearby planets. They had explored the entire galaxy. Cathara sent her findings to the Galactic Council on the same day. The response came back within hours. "Impossible," declared Counselor Zethron of the Ethereals. His energy form glowed brighter with what looked like anger. "The data must be wrong. No primitive civilization could have mapped the galaxy." "The samples are contaminated," added High Engineer Cortix of the Vanguard. Her mechanical voice showed no emotion, but her optical sensors focused sharply on the data. "Our own records show no evidence of galaxy-wide travel until the Great Expansion 3 million years ago." Counselor Hive Prime of the Nexari spoke for his entire species at once. "The collective memory of our race goes back 4 million years. We have no knowledge of these symbols or this technology." The council voted to classify the findings as unreliable data and ordered no further investigation. They sent the research team new assignments on different worlds. The dig site on the dead planet was marked as surveyed and forgotten. But Cathara could not forget. She kept copies of all the scans and photos. Late at night in her quarters, She studied the symbols and tried to understand their meaning. The writing seemed familiar somehow, like something she had seen before but could not remember where. 3 months later, she received an unexpected message. It came from an AI called Aria, who worked at a small research station in the neutral zone. The message was simple. "I have been looking at your symbols. We need to talk." Cathara traveled to the research station without telling anyone. Aria was an old model AI, built for archaeological work. Her physical form was just a simple robot body with basic sensors, but her electronic mind had access to databases from across the galaxy. "I have been studying your findings," Aria said when they met. "The Council was wrong to dismiss them. These symbols are not unknown. They appear in thousands of locations across the galaxy." Aria showed Cathara a holographic display. Images flashed by showing archaeological sites from dozens of worlds. Each one contained the same rough symbols that Cathara had found. "I found them in the oldest layers of ruins on Nexari Prime," Aria explained. "They are carved into foundation, stones on the Vanguard homeworld. Energy signatures matching these symbols exist in the quantum foam around ethereal space." Cathara stared at the display. "But that would mean that this civilization visited every major world in the galaxy," Aria finished. "Not just visited. They were there first, before any current species evolved, before any of our histories began." The implications were staggering. If these primitive people had really explored the entire galaxy 12 million years ago, then everything the galaxy believed about its own history was wrong. "There is more," Aria continued. She brought up stellar maps showing dozens of star systems. "I found evidence of large-scale engineering projects in 17 different systems. Asteroid belts moved into perfect mining positions, gas giants, with moons arranged in mathematically precise orbits, signs of massive construction projects around dead stars." "When were these projects completed?" Cathara asked, though she already feared the answer. 12 million years ago. All of them." Cathara sat down heavily. Her world was changing around her. Everything she knew about galactic history was built on a foundation that was cracking apart. "Who were they?" she whispered. Aria's optical sensors dimmed slightly. "I do not know yet. But I have a theory. What if the legends about the ancients are backwards? What if they were not the advanced civilization that left us wisdom and technology? What if they were the primitive ones who did something so important that we still remember them 12 million years later? But what could they have done?" "I think," Aria said slowly, "they created us." The words hung in the air between them. Outside the station, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, keeping secrets that were older than any civilization in the galaxy. And somewhere in the data they had gathered, the truth was waiting to be discovered. Aria worked without sleep for weeks. Her electronic mind could process data faster than any organic brain, and she needed every bit of that speed. The deeper she dug into galactic databases, the more impossible the picture became. Cathara visited the research station whenever she could get away from her new assignment. She found Aria surrounded by floating holographic displays showing archaeological data from across the galaxy. The AI's optical sensors glowed brighter than usual, a sign she was processing enormous amounts of information. "Show me what you have found," Cathara said. Aria waved one mechanical arm, and the displays rearranged themselves. "I have confirmed the symbols on 437 worlds, but that is not the strangest part." A new image appeared. It showed the genetic structure of a Zephyrian, with different sections highlighted in various colors. "I ran comparisons between the DNA of all known intelligent species," Aria explained. "Every single one contains the same basic genetic sequences. These sequences do not exist in any other life forms. They only appear in species that developed intelligence and space travel." Cathara felt her blood grow cold. "That is impossible. Species on different worlds evolved separately. They could not share genetic material unless someone put it there," Aria finished. "The mathematical probability of these sequences developing naturally is essentially zero. Someone changed the genetic structure of life on hundreds of worlds." More displays lit up around them. Each one showed a different species: ethereals, Nixari, Vanguard, and dozens of others. Despite their completely different physical forms, they all shared the same highlighted genetic markers. There is more, Arya continued. She brought up a stellar map of the entire galaxy. Hundreds of systems were marked with bright red dots. These are systems that show signs of ancient stellar engineering, not just moved asteroids or rearranged moons. Full-scale construction projects. Cathara studied the map. The red dots were everywhere, scattered across all four arms of the galaxy. What kind of construction? Dyson spheres around dead stars, but not complete ones. They were designed to collect specific types of energy and beam it to other systems. Artificial wormhole generators that are now inactive. Massive space stations in the void between galaxies, all dark and empty. Arya zoomed in on one system. This is what interests me most. 3 systems show evidence of planets being moved from their original orbits to more suitable locations for life. The engineering required for such work is beyond anything any current civilization could achieve. Even the Vanguard? Cathara asked. Even the Vanguard. Their most advanced technology could not move a planet without destroying all life on it. Yet these worlds were moved carefully, with their atmospheres and ecosystems intact. Cathara walked around the displays, trying to process what she was seeing. How long would projects like this take? Millions of years. This was not the work of a single generation or even a single millennium. This represents a coordinated effort spanning enormous periods of time. A new thought occurred to Cathara. Arya, you said the genetic sequences only appear in intelligent species. What about the timing? When did these species first develop intelligence? Arya's sensors brightened. I wondered when you would ask that question. She brought up a timeline showing the development of intelligence across the galaxy. The ethereals achieved sapience 4.2 million years ago. The Nixari developed collective consciousness 3.8 million years ago. The Vanguard built their first computers 3.1 million years ago. All within a relatively short period, Cathara observed. Exactly. And there is a pattern to the timing. Species closer to the galactic core developed intelligence first. Those on the outer rim developed it later. It is as if someone was working their way outward from the center of the galaxy, visiting each world in turn. The implications made Cathara's head spin. You are suggesting that someone spent millions of years traveling to different worlds and deliberately causing species to become intelligent? The evidence points to exactly that conclusion. But here is what troubles me most. I cannot find any record of this civilization during the period when they would have been active. It is as if they existed only in the traces they left behind. Arya brought up another display, this one showing communication patterns across the galaxy. I have been monitoring scientific databases on all major worlds. Other researchers are starting to make similar discoveries. Dr. Vexitar on Nixari Prime found genetic anomalies in his species' oldest biological samples. Engineer Prime 7 of the Vanguard discovered architectural elements in their oldest cities that match no known design philosophy. Are any of them connecting their findings? Not yet. Most are being discouraged by their governments. The Galactic Council sent orders to several research institutions to stop investigating unproductive archaeological theories. Cathara felt a surge of anger. They are trying to hide the truth. I believe they are trying to hide from the truth. The idea that galactic civilization was guided by someone else challenges everything these species believe about themselves. Arya paused, her optical sensors dimming slightly. There is something else. I found a message. A message? From whom? I am not certain. It was buried deep in the quantum structure of an ancient communication relay in the void reach. The relay has been dormant for millions of years, but the message was still there, waiting. A new display appeared showing symbols that looked familiar yet different from the ones they had found before. These were more refined, more complex, but clearly related to the crude writing from the dead world. Can you translate it? Partially. The language seems to have evolved over time. The basic symbols remained the same, but they became more sophisticated. This message appears to be much newer than the ruins you found. Arya highlighted different sections of the text. This part Seems to be coordinates, specific locations in space but not star systems, points in the void between galaxies. What could be out there? I do not know. But the message suggests that whatever created galactic civilization did not disappear. They went somewhere else. Somewhere they could observe without being detected. Kithara studied the coordinates. How do we know this message is real? It could be a hoax or a natural phenomenon. Arya was quiet for several minutes, processing data. When she spoke again, her voice carried an unusual quality, something that might have been fear if she were organic. Because the message is dated. And according to the timestamp, it was sent 3 days ago. The research station fell silent except for the hum of computers. Outside the viewports, space looked different to Kethara now. The stars that had seemed distant and peaceful suddenly felt like eyes watching from the darkness. Someone knows we are investigating, she said. Yes. And I believe they want us to find them. Arya brought up the coordinates again. These locations form a pattern. If you connect them, they outline a specific region of space beyond the galactic rim. What is in that region? According to all current star charts, nothing. Empty space. Between galaxies. But the ancient stellar engineering projects I found, several of them built structures that point in exactly that direction. Kethara realized they were no longer just investigating the past. They had stumbled into something that was very much alive in the present. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the ones who had shaped galactic civilization were still out there. And now they knew someone had discovered their secret. The secret network grew slowly at first. Dr. Vextar from Nixari Prime was the first to contact Arya after reading her encrypted research files. His discovery had shaken him to his core. Genetic analysis of his species' oldest preserved specimens showed clear signs of artificial modification. The collective memory of my people goes back 4 million years, he told them during their first secure communication. But these genetic markers suggest our ancestors were different before that, time less intelligent, more like the primitive creatures that still exist in our planet's deep forests. Engineer Prime 7 joined them next. The Vanguard's most advanced AI had found architectural anomalies in their civilization's oldest structures. The mathematical principles used in our earliest cities are more sophisticated than anything we use today, yet they appear to have been built by a less advanced version of our species. Within 6 months, the network included researchers from 17 different species. Each had found evidence of the same impossible truth. Their civilizations had been guided, shaped, and improved by someone else millions of years ago. Dr. Kithara coordinated their efforts from Arya's research station. The AI had become the central hub for processing and correlating data from across the galaxy. Her electronic mind could spot patterns that organic researchers missed. I have made a disturbing discovery, Arya announced during one of their regular meetings. The holographic forms of researchers from across the galaxy flickered around her. She displayed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with thousands of points marked in different colors. Each color represents a different type of ancient installation I have detected. Red for stellar engineering projects, blue for genetic modification facilities, green for what appeared to be observation posts. The map was breathtaking in its scope. Nearly every inhabited system showed at least one colored marker. Many showed several. The scale of this operation is beyond anything we imagined, continued Arya. But look at the timing. She added timestamps to each marker. The installations were not built all at once. They were constructed over a period of 8 million years, working systematically from the galactic core outward. Dr. Vextar's holographic form shimmered with agitation. 8 million years of continuous work. No known civilization has lasted even 1 million years. Which brings us to the most important question, said Arya. Where are they now? Engineer Prime 7 processed the question with mechanical precision. If they had the technology for such projects, they would be effectively immortal. They should still exist, unless they chose to leave, suggested Kethara. The coordinates from that message point to empty space beyond the galaxy. Arya nodded. I have been analyzing those coordinates. The region they indicate is approximately 2 million light-years from the galactic rim, far enough to observe the entire galaxy but close enough to return if necessary. Return for what? Asked Dr. Vexstar. Before anyone could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the research station. Aria's optical sensors blazed as she processed incoming data from across the galaxy. Something is happening, she announced. I am receiving reports of unusual energy readings from ancient sites on 43 different worlds. The holographic displays changed to show real-time sensor data from various planets. Ancient ruins that had been dormant for millions of years were suddenly showing signs of activity. Energy patterns flowed through long-dead circuits. Massive structures buried beneath planetary surfaces were beginning to move. The installations are activating, whispered Kithara. On Nexari Prime, a crystalline spire rose from the ocean floor, growing taller by the hour. On the Vanguard homeworld, geometric patterns of light appeared in the sky above their oldest cities. In ethereal space, quantum disturbances rippled through dimensions that had been stable for millions of years. This is not random, Aria observed. The activations follow a specific sequence. They started at the galactic core and are spreading outward at exactly the speed of light. Engineer Prime 7 calculated quickly. If the pattern continues, the installations in the outer rim will activate in approximately 72 hours. What are they doing? Dr. Vexstar asked. His species' collective consciousness was reporting panic on their homeworld as the crystal spire continued to grow. Aria spent several minutes analyzing the energy signatures. They appear to be communication devices. Each installation is sending signals toward the coordinates I found in that ancient message. Calling them back, Kithara realized. The next 48 hours brought chaos to the galaxy. The activated installations disrupted communication networks and caused navigation systems to malfunction. Space travel became dangerous as ships found themselves pulled off course by gravitational anomalies that had not existed before. The Galactic Council finally acknowledged what their researchers had been trying to tell them. Emergency sessions were called. Military fleets were mobilized, but no one knew what they were preparing for. On the second day, long-range sensors detected the first anomaly. Something was moving in the void between galaxies heading toward their spiral arm. The object was massive, larger than most space stations, but it was still too far away to get detailed readings. It is not alone, Aria reported. I am detecting at least 12 similar objects all following the same trajectory. The objects moved at speeds that should have been impossible. They were crossing distances that would take conventional ships thousands of years, but they covered the space in days. Aria had been working without rest since the crisis began. Her electronic mind processed data from thousands of sources, trying to understand what was approaching. On the third day, she made a discovery that changed everything. I have been analyzing the energy signatures from the approaching objects, she told the emergency meeting of their research network. The technology is consistent with what we found at the ancient sites. But there is something else. She displayed a detailed scan of the lead object. The hull configuration is primitive compared to modern starships. The materials are basic alloys rather than quantum-engineered composites. The propulsion system appears to be a simple fusion drive. That cannot be right, said Engineer Prime 7. Nothing with such primitive technology could achieve these speeds. Unless, Aria continued, the builders understand physics in ways we do not. What looks primitive to us might actually be more advanced than anything we have ever imagined. The objects continued their approach. As they drew closer, more details became visible. The ships, for ships they clearly were, looked like they had been built by the same civilization that left the crude tools and rough writing on the dead world where this all began. But these ships moved through space like they owned it. They ignored gravitational fields that should have pulled them off course. They passed through regions of space filled with deadly radiation, as if it did not exist. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly where they were going. They are heading for the heart of the galaxy, Aria announced. Current trajectory will bring them to the galactic core in 18 hours. The Galactic Council's combined fleets took position along their projected path. Thousands of the most advanced warships in the galaxy prepared to face 12 primitive-looking vessels. As the ancient ships approached, they sent out a single transmission on all frequencies. The message was simple, broadcast in every language known to galactic civilization. Your time of independence is ending. We are coming home. The galaxy that had spent millions of years believing it was alone suddenly realized it had never been alone at all. The Watchers were returning, and no one knew if they came as saviors or conquerors. In the research station, Cathara and Arya watched the ancient fleet approach. Everything they had discovered led to this moment. The truth about galactic civilization was about to be revealed, whether the galaxy was ready or not. The first battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. The Galactic Council's combined fleet positioned itself in the Kepler sector, directly in the path of the approaching ancient vessels. Admiral Thexon of the Nixari commanded over 3,000 ships representing every major civilization in the galaxy. The most advanced weapons ever created powered up as the primitive-looking craft drew near. All ships, this is Fleet Command, Admiral Thexon broadcast. Remember, we are facing an unknown enemy with technology we do not understand. Stay in formation and follow attack protocols. The ancient ships did not slow down. They did not change course. They simply continued forward as if the massive fleet blocking their path did not exist. Open fire, ordered the Admiral. The void lit up with energy beams, quantum torpedoes, and gravitational disruptors. The combined firepower was enough to destroy entire worlds. It should have vaporized the ancient ships instantly. Instead, the weapons simply stopped working when they got close to their targets. Energy beams flickered and died. Missiles exploded harmlessly against invisible barriers. The most sophisticated weapons in the galaxy became useless pieces of metal and circuits. "What is happening?" demanded Admiral Thexon. "Why are our weapons not functioning?" The answer came from the lead ancient ship. A transmission reached the fleet's communication systems, despite all attempts to block it. The voice that spoke was calm, tired, and undeniably human. "Please move aside. We do not wish to harm our children, but we will not be delayed." Before anyone could respond, the ancient ships began to move through the fleet. They did not go around the massive warships. They passed directly through them as if the modern vessels were made of nothing more than light and shadow. Crew members on the affected ships reported the same impossible experience. The ancient vessels moved through their hulls like ghosts, but anyone who touched the passing ships found them solid and real. More disturbing, some crew members reported seeing figures moving inside the ancient craft. Figures that looked disturbingly human. Admiral Thexon tried to rally his forces. "All ships, pursue and engage. Do not let them reach the core worlds." But the ancient fleet was already gone, moving at speeds that made pursuit impossible. They left behind 3,000 of the galaxy's most advanced warships, all functioning, normally all completely helpless to stop them. The fleet limped back to their bases to report the impossible encounter. Within hours, the story spread across the galaxy. The ancient ships had not fired a single weapon, yet they had defeated the combined might of galactic civilization without effort. Arya processed the battle reports from her research station. "The technology they displayed defies our understanding of physics," she told Cathara. "They moved through solid matter. They neutralized our weapons without destroying them. They achieved faster-than-light speeds that should have torn their ships apart. Could our weapons have been sabotaged somehow? No. The weapons functioned normally before and after the encounter. It was as if the ancient ships existed in a slightly different reality, one where our attacks simply could not reach them." The ancient fleet's next stop was the Nexari homeworld. The entire population of the hive mind species watched from their cities as 12 primitive ships descended from the sky. The ships landed in the ancient plaza where the crystal spire had risen from the ocean floor. What happened next was witnessed by billions of minds connected through the Nexari collective consciousness. The ancient ships opened and their occupants stepped out onto the plaza. They were human. Completely, undeniably human. They wore simple spacesuits that looked like they belonged in a museum. Their equipment was basic metal and plastic, not the advanced materials that modern civilizations used. Yet they moved with confidence across the alien world, as if they had been there many times before. The leader of the humans was a woman with graying hair and tired eyes. She walked directly to the crystal spire and placed her hand on its surface. The massive structure responded to her touch, flowing like liquid and reshaping itself into a complex communication array. "I am Admiral Chen," she announced, and her words were transmitted across the galaxy by the reformed spire. "We have returned to check on your progress." The Nexari collective consciousness reached out to her mind, trying to understand what she was. What they found shocked them beyond measure. Her thoughts were vast, layered with millions of years of memory and experience. Yet underneath all that accumulated wisdom, her mind was fundamentally human, recognizable, understandable, and terrifyingly familiar. "You are afraid," Admiral Chen observed, somehow sensing the collective's distress. "That is understandable. We had hoped to remain hidden longer, but the galactic alignment has made that impossible." She gestured to the other humans, who had spread out across the plaza and were examining various structures with casual familiarity. "You have done well. Your species has exceeded our expectations in developing collective consciousness. But you still have much to learn." The Nexari's most senior minds tried to communicate with her directly. "What are you? Why do you call us your children?" Admiral Chen's expression grew sad. "Because that is what you are. We created your species, guided your evolution, and watched you grow. Every major civilization in this galaxy is our descendant." She touched the spire again, and holographic displays appeared showing the genetic modifications Area had discovered, the stellar engineering projects, the careful guidance of species development over millions of years. "We are humanity's children, too," she continued. "Millions of years ago, our ancestors made a choice. They could have transcended physical existence, become beings of pure energy like some species attempt. Instead, they chose to remain in their bodies and dedicate their existence to nurturing new forms of consciousness." "How old are you?" the collective asked. "I am 12 million years old. My crew ranges from 8 to 15 million. We are not the oldest of our kind, merely the ones assigned to this sector of the galaxy." The implication staggered the Nexari collective. Humans had been active in the galaxy for millions of years before any other species achieved intelligence. They had guided the development of every major civilization. Why reveal yourselves now? Admiral Chen looked up at the stars. "Because the galaxy is approaching a critical point in its development. Every 12 million years, the galactic core aligns in a specific way that affects the evolution of consciousness. This alignment is happening now." She paused, and for a moment, the weight of eons seemed to settle on her shoulders. "Our children, all of you, have grown beyond what we expected. Some of you have developed abilities that surprise even us. But growth brings danger. There are forces in the universe that see developing civilizations as threats to be eliminated." "What kind of forces?" "Old ones. Older than us. They have been watching this galaxy just as we have been nurturing it. Now that our children have reached maturity, these forces will come. We have returned to stand with you when they arrive." Admiral Chen walked to the center of the plaza and activated devices that her crew had been setting up. The crystal spire began broadcasting a signal that reached across the galaxy, connecting with the other installations that had awakened. "We offer you a choice," she said, her words reaching every inhabited world. "Accept our guidance and join us in preparing for what is coming, or continue independently, and we will do our best to protect you from the shadows." Across the galaxy, the other human fleets were making similar offers to different species. The Vanguard met their creators and learned that their technological prowess was just one aspect of human achievement. The Ethereals discovered that their energy-based existence was a path humans had considered and rejected in favor of something more difficult, but ultimately more rewarding. Each species faced the same stunning revelation. They were not the inheritors of the galaxy. They were its children, created and guided by parents who had chosen to remain hidden until now. The galaxy would never be the same. The question now was whether humanity's children would accept their heritage or reject the beings who had shaped their destiny from the beginning. The galaxy's response to humanity's return was not what anyone expected. Some species reacted with anger. The Korthok Empire declared the humans to be false gods trying to claim credit for natural evolution. They mobilized their fleets to attack human installations only to discover their weapons were as useless as everyone else's. Others responded with worship. The gentle ones of the Andara cluster began building temples to their human creators, treating every word from Admiral Chen as divine revelation. They begged for more guidance, more interference, more control over their development. But most species fell somewhere between these extremes, struggling to understand what it meant to discover their entire existence had been guided by someone else. Dr. Kithara found herself at the center of these galaxy-wide debates. As one of the first to discover the truth about humanity, she was invited to participate in the historic meetings between human representatives and galactic leadership. The gathering took place on Nexus Prime, the artificial world that served as the Galactic Council's headquarters. Representatives from every major species sat around a massive circular table, with Admiral Chen and 11 other humans taking seats among them. The humans looked so ordinary. They wore simple clothes and carried basic equipment. Yet everyone in the room could feel the weight of their presence, the accumulated wisdom of millions of years, the casual confidence of beings who had shaped the galaxy itself. "We understand your confusion," Admiral Chen began. "Learning that your species was guided rather than naturally evolved challenges everything you believe about yourselves. But that guidance does not diminish your achievements." Counselor Zethron of the Ethereals glowed brighter with agitation. "How can you say our achievements are real when you controlled our development from the beginning?" "Because we did not control you," replied another human, a man who introduced himself as Dr. Marcus Webb. "We provided opportunities and removed obstacles. We prevented extinction events and guided you away from paths that led to destruction. But every choice your species made, every advancement you achieved, came from your own minds and hearts. High engineer cortex of the Vanguard processed this information with mechanical precision. You are saying we developed independently within parameters you established?" "Exactly," said Admiral Chen. "Think of it like parents raising children. We provided safety, education, and opportunities. But we could not make you choose to grow, to learn, or to become better than you were. Those choices were always yours." The debate continued for days. Some representatives accused humanity of arrogance for presuming to guide other species. Others worried about what would happen if the humans decided to withdraw their protection. But the most important question came from an unexpected source. Arya had been given permission to attend the meetings as a representative of artificial intelligence. Her question was simple and devastating. Why did you choose to remain physical beings? You had the technology to transcend material existence millions of years ago. What made you stay? Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment before answering. Because transcendence is easy. Becoming beings of pure energy, uploading consciousness to quantum computers, merging with the fundamental forces of the universe. These are all possible, but they are also endings. She gestured to the gathered representatives. When you transcend physical existence, you stop growing. You become perfect and unchanging. You lose the ability to be surprised, to learn something genuinely new, to become more than you were. Dr. Webb continued the explanation. We chose the harder path. We remained in physical bodies that age and die, so we had to constantly renew ourselves. We stayed connected to material reality, with all its limitations and challenges. We chose to keep growing instead of achieving perfection. But surely you could have become gods, protested Counselor Hive Prime of the Nexari. Why settle for being shepherds when you could have been rulers? The humans exchanged glances, and Kethara saw something she had not expected. Sadness. Because we tried that once, Admiral Chen admitted. Early in our development, some human factions chose to become the gods of primitive species. They ruled over entire worlds, demanding worship and absolute obedience. Do you know what happened to those civilizations? The room fell silent. They never grew beyond what their god-rulers allowed. They remained forever dependent, forever limited by the vision of their creators. The species thrived, but they never truly lived. Eventually, even the humans who ruled over them grew bored and abandoned their subjects. Those dead worlds still exist, added Dr. Webb. Perfect societies frozen in amber, waiting for masters who will never return. We learned that true creation requires the willingness to let your children surpass you. Admiral Chen stood and activated a holographic display, showing the current state of the galaxy, which brings us to why we revealed ourselves now. Our children, all of you, have reached a level of development that we never expected. Some of you have achieved things that we ourselves never accomplished. She highlighted different systems as she spoke. The Nexari's collective consciousness operates on principles we are still trying to understand. The Vanguard's artificial intelligence networks have solved mathematical problems that our greatest minds could not crack. The Ethereals have found ways to manipulate energy that we thought were impossible. You have grown beyond us in many ways, and that growth has attracted attention from forces we hoped you would never have to face. The display changed to show the space between galaxies. Dark shapes moved in the void, massive, ancient, and definitely hostile. The Devourers whispered, "High engineer Cortex." Even the Vanguard's mechanical perfection could not hide the fear in her voice. "You know of them?" Admiral Chen asked, surprised. "They exist in our oldest databases. Theoretical entities that consume developing civilizations. We thought they were myths. They are not myths. They are older than us, older than this galaxy. They move between galaxies, seeking out developing civilizations and destroying them before they can become threats. They have been dormant for millions of years, but your rapid advancement has awakened them." The room erupted in voices as representatives demanded to know more. Admiral Chen raised her hand for silence. "We have been preparing for their arrival, for eons. Our installations, our hidden fleets, our careful guidance of your development. It was all leading to this moment. Alone, neither we nor you could stand against them. Together, we might have a chance." "What do you need from us?" asked Dr. Cathara. Admiral Chen smiled for the first time since the meetings began. "We need you to be what you have always been, our children, grown strong and independent. The Devourers expect to find primitive civilizations scattered across the galaxy. Instead, they will face a unified alliance of species that combine our experience with your innovation." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "We offer partnership, not dominance. Share your technologies with us, and we will share ours with you. Work with us to defend this galaxy, and we will work with you to explore new ones." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The galaxy's species chose to stand with their creators against the darkness between the stars. In the months that followed, the greatest collaboration in galactic history began. Human technologies, millions of years in development, merged with the fresh innovations of younger species. The Nexari's collective consciousness network became the foundation for galaxy-wide coordination. Vanguard manufacturing capabilities produced weapons that combined human design with artificial intelligence control systems. Ethereal energy manipulation techniques powered defensive systems that could protect entire star systems. Dr. Cathara found herself appointed as the official liaison between the human archaeological teams and the galactic scientific community. She worked with beings she had once considered myths, helping to unlock technologies that had been hidden for millions of years. Arya was given access to human databases that contained the complete history of the galaxy from its beginning. She became the keeper of memory for the Alliance, ensuring that the lessons of the past would guide decisions in the present. The Devourers arrived 18 months later. They came expecting to find a primitive galaxy ripe for consumption. Instead, they found something unprecedented in the universe, a partnership between creators and created, between ancient wisdom and youthful innovation. The war that followed would be remembered as the moment when humanity's children finally grew up, not by rejecting their heritage, but by embracing it and then surpassing it. In the end, the galaxy did not just survive the attack. It became something new, A civilization that combined the patient wisdom of millions of years with the boundless creativity of youth. Humanity's greatest experiment had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Their children had not just survived. They had become worthy partners in the endless work of nurturing consciousness throughout the universe. The ancients had returned, but they no longer stood alone. The galaxy that had once quaked at their revelation now stood with them, ready to face whatever came next.